Welcome. I am Dr. Frank Rogers Jr. I am the professor of spiritual formation and narrative pedagogy at the Ecumenical and Interreligious Claremont School of Theology in Southern California. And I'm also the co-founder and co-director of the Center for Engaged Compassion. It's my honor to be with you through this course. And I don't know about you, but I look at the world in this state we are in, and there is a great need for compassion. The violence that is just rampant around our world is tearing apart our communities. It's tearing apart our families. It's tearing apart our social order. It's even tearing apart many of our religious communities. The violence, the polarization, the rancor that people have towards one another. There's a deep need for remembering that compassion is at the heart of what it means to be a human being. And it's also at the heart of what it means to be able to restore ourselves to our best self, to the persons that we long to be. And it is also the agent for healing the social divides that are so rampant within our world. This is a course that recognizes that all spiritual traditions really honor compassion as a fundamental spiritual value and virtue. And we focus on this course on monotheistic traditions, mainly traditions coming from Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. For each of these three monotheistic spiritual traditions, compassion is at the very heart of what this tradition is all about. It recognizes that we are invited to be people that embody compassion towards one another in very radical ways. It's really rooted in three different fundamental dimensions of compassion. That compassion involves being rooted in a sacred source that sustains us, a sacred source that is itself absolutely infinitely compassionate. It secondly is an invitation to cultivate self-compassion, to use compassion as the means by which we might tend to all the inner cacophonies within us, the emotions, the impulses, the drives that can so hound us within, that actually compassion can be the way in which we can return to our best selves, that we can come back home to ourselves, to the spiritual essence that dwells within each one of us. And thirdly, it's an invitation to embody a radical compassion towards others, and not just towards the persons in our families and in our communities, but to the stranger and as well as to those who are in need. Compassion even to the outcasts, compassion even towards our enemies, compassion even towards persons that perpetuate violence and abuse in our world. What does such compassion look like is what we will explore throughout this course. But even more importantly, is we're going to explore how do we cultivate compassion. As we will see, compassion is not just something we have to fake up and try to muster up like a muscle that we're trying to work out with, but rather compassion dwells within each one of us. There is a spiritual essence of compassion that dwells within every single human soul. And so cultivating compassion is about connecting with the sacred springs of compassion that dwell deep within this universe and extending self-compassion to ourselves to access that core spiritual essence of compassion that dwells within each of us. And then from that inner space of grounded compassion, to cultivate compassionate connection with those in our world. So this is a 4-session course. We will look at the how. I will present some lecture material to try to describe how these monotheistic traditions understand the cultivation of compassion. Absolutely not will we have to become Christian or become Muslim or become Jewish to appreciate the wisdom that comes from these traditions. Rather, we can just participate in the practices that they invite us into without having to adopt a particular religious perspective. And after each presentation, I will also have a contemplative practice that helps us to experience, to at least taste the invitation along each step of the way in cultivating compassion in our lives and in our world. You will soon discover that these traditions are very story-based, and so we will be sharing a few stories. So be prepared to be able to hear some stories that help moisten our heart, but also to listen to the stories within our own lives.